The assembly hall of Apex Prime was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the dead space between 3 star systems, and its walls were made of crystal that had taken 1,000 years to grow. Representatives from over 400 species sat in rows that rose toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. At the very back, in seats barely better than the floor, sat the humans. Counselor Zara Ortiz kept her face calm as she watched the proceedings. She had learned long ago that showing emotion here was a weakness. The aliens around her did not understand human expressions anyway. To them, humans were just another primitive species, useful for labor and little else. 50 years had passed since humanity first made contact with the Valorith Dominion. 50 years of being told they were nothing. 50 years of watching their colonies starve while richer species hoarded resources. 50 years of swallowing their pride and bowing their heads. Today, that would change. High Arbiter Quelix rose from his throne at the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to absorb light. His eyes were black pools that never blinked. He had ruled the Dominion for 3 centuries, and in all that time, no species had ever defied him. "We are gathered to address a violation of Dominion law," Quelix said. His voice filled the hall without effort. "The human species has expanded into the neutral corridor without permission. This is forbidden to all Tier 7 civilizations." Laughter rippled through the assembly. Zara felt it wash over her like a cold wave. She stood anyway. "High Arbiter, I request the right to speak," she said. Quelix turned his dark eyes toward her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, he made a small gesture with one hand. "You may speak, human. Though I doubt you have anything worth hearing." More laughter. Zara ignored it. "Our colonies are dying," she said. "We have asked for better territories for 20 years. Every request was denied. Our people needed food, medicine, and raw materials. The neutral corridor had these things, and no one else was using them. We had no choice." "You had a choice," Quelix replied. "You could have accepted your place in the order of things. You could have let your weak colonies fail, as nature intended. Instead, you broke our laws. We saved our people. You condemned them." The hall fell silent. Quelix raised one hand, and a holographic display appeared in the air above him. It showed Earth, small and blue, and alone in the vast darkness of space. "The Dominion has been patient with humanity," Quelix said. "We welcomed you into our community. We taught you the ways of civilized species, and this is how you repay us. With defiance, with arrogance, with theft." He paused and let his words hang in the air. "You will be given one final warning. Remove all human presence from the neutral corridor within 30 solar cycles. If you fail to comply, the Dominion will remove you by force. Not just from the corridor. From existence itself." Zara felt her heart pound, but her voice stayed steady. "You would destroy an entire species for wanting to survive?" "We would destroy a species that refuses to know its place," Quelix answered. "You are small. You are weak. Your lives are laughably short. You have nothing that we want, and nothing that we fear. The only reason you still exist is because we allow it. Remember that, human. Remember it well." He turned away from her, dismissing her like she was nothing. Zara sat down slowly. Around her, alien delegates whispered and pointed. Some of them smiled with mouths full of sharp teeth. Others made gestures of contempt in their own strange ways. None of them spoke to her. None of them offered help. She was alone in a room of 400 species, and not one of them cared if her people lived or died. 3 days later, she stood in the command center of Earth's United Defense Council. Admiral Henry Moore sat at the head of a long table, his face grim and tired. Around him sat the leaders of every major Earth government, along with the commanders of the human fleet. 30 days, Moore said quietly. "They gave us 30 days to surrender everything we have built, or they will kill us all. Can we negotiate?" someone asked. "I tried," Zara answered. They are not interested in talking. They want obedience or death. Those are the only options they understand. Then we prepare for war, another voice said. All eyes turned to the man who had spoken. Captain Daniel Cole stood near the back of the room, his arms crossed over his chest. He was in his early 40s, with gray starting to show at his temples. His eyes were calm and steady, the eyes of a man who had seen combat and survived it. Captain Cole, Admiral Moore said. You command the Steadfast, one of our best ships. Tell me honestly, can we fight the Dominion? Danny walked forward until he stood at the table. He looked at each face in turn, seeing the fear there, the doubt, the exhaustion. These were people who had spent their whole lives being told they were nothing, being told they were weak, being told they should be grateful for whatever scraps the Dominion threw their way. He understood that fear. He had felt it himself. Once. But he had also felt something else. Something that burned in his chest, like a fire that would not die. The Dominion has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years, Danny said. They have conquered hundreds of species. They have weapons we cannot match, and ships we cannot count. By every measure that matters to them, we should lose. He paused. But they have never fought humans before. They do not know what we are. They see our short lives and think we are fragile. They see our small bodies and think we are weak. They see our young civilization and think we are ignorant. They are wrong about all of it. How can you be so sure? Zara asked. Danny smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. All because they think war is about numbers and firepower. They think the bigger army always wins. But we know something they have forgotten. War is about will. It is about refusing to give up even when everything tells you that you should. It is about fighting for something that matters more than your own life. He looked at Admiral Moore. Can we fight them? Yes. Can we hurt them? Yes. Can we win? He nodded slowly. We can do more than win. We can make them regret they ever heard the name humanity. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Admiral Moore stood. His back was straight, and some of the tiredness had left his face. Call for a vote, he said. All in favor of rejecting the Dominion ultimatum. Every hand in the room went up. Moore turned to Danny. Get your ship ready, Captain. We have a war to fight. Danny saluted and walked toward the door. As he left, he heard Zara speak quietly to the Admiral. Do you really think we can win? Moore did not answer for a moment. Then he said, I think we can die trying. And sometimes, that is the only choice that matters. Outside, the sun was setting over Earth. Danny stood on a balcony and watched the sky turn red and gold. Somewhere out there, 2,000 light-years away, the Dominion was already preparing its fleets. They thought they were coming to crush an insect beneath their boot. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Steadfast cut through the darkness of space like a knife. It was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was one of the fastest. Captain Danny Cole stood on the bridge and watched the stars blur past the view screen. They had been traveling for 6 days, and they still had 2 more to go. Lieutenant Commander Maria Vance walked up beside him. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and a mind that never stopped working. She had served with Danny for 8 years, and he trusted her more than anyone else in the fleet. The crew is ready, she said. They know what we are doing and why. No one is backing down. Good, Danny replied. We are going to need every one of them before this is over. The door to the bridge opened, and Dr. Samuel Grant entered. He was carrying a data pad and looked like he had not slept in days. His hair was a mess and his uniform was wrinkled, but his eyes were bright with excitement. Captain, I found something, he said. Something important. Danny turned to face him. What is it? Samuel held up the data pad. I have been studying Dominion technology for years. Their shields are the best in the galaxy. Nothing we have can break through them. But I found a flaw. Maria raised an eyebrow. A flaw in Dominion shields? That seems too good to be true. It would be, if they ever bothered to check, Samuel said. But why would they? No one has challenged them in centuries. They got lazy. Their shields operate on a specific frequency range. If we can hit that exact frequency with a disruption pulse, the shields will fail for about 3 seconds. 3 seconds is not much, Danny said. 3 seconds is enough, Samuel replied. Enough to fire a missile. Enough to land a killing blow. They will never see it coming, because they do not believe anyone could find this weakness. Danny took the data pad and looked at the information. It was complicated, full of numbers and equations he did not fully understand. But he understood enough. Can you build a device that generates this pulse? Already working on it, Samuel said. Give me 2 days, and I will have something ready for testing. Danny nodded. Do it. This might be the edge we need. 2 days later, the Steadfast arrived at the Corvani homeworld. The planet was gray and covered in factories that pumped smoke into the sky. The Corvani had been conquered by the Dominion 500 years ago. Now they worked as slaves, building ships and weapons for their masters. Danny took a shuttle down to the surface with Maria and a small team. They landed in a hidden valley far from the Dominion observation posts. A group of Corvani was waiting for them. The Corvani were short and stocky, with thick skin the color of stone. Their eyes were large and round, and they moved with careful, quiet steps. Their leader stepped forward. Her name was Velka, and she was the head of the underground resistance. Captain Cole, she said, you take a great risk coming here. If the Dominion finds out, they will kill us all. I know, Danny replied. But I had to come. We need your help. Velka studied him for a long moment. Why should we help you? Humans are a Tier 7 species. You are even lower than we are. What can you offer us? Freedom, Danny said simply. If we win this war, we will not stop until every slave in the Dominion is free, including your people. And if you lose, then we die. But we were going to die anyway. At least this way, we die fighting. Velka was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, and it was the first smile Danny had seen on a Corvani face. You humans are strange, she said. You have no reason to hope. Your fleet is small. Your technology is weak. The Dominion will crush you like they have crushed every other species that defied them. And yet you smile and talk about victory. Hope is not about reason, Danny replied. It is about choice. We choose to believe we can win, and sometimes that choice is enough to make it true. Velka nodded slowly. Very well, Captain. We will help you. But I must warn you. If you fail, the Dominion will not just kill your people. They will kill us too. They will burn our world and scatter our ashes across the stars. Then we will not fail. Back on the Steadfast, Ensign Katie Brooks was sitting at her station on the bridge. She was young, barely 25, but she had a gift for languages that no one else in the fleet could match. She could decode transmissions that had stumped experts for years. Right now, she was listening to Dominion communications. The aliens did not bother to hide their messages very well. Why would they? No one had ever threatened them. No one had ever given them a reason to be careful. Katie frowned as she listened. Something was wrong. She ran to find Maria, who was in the cargo bay checking weapons. Commander, Katie said, I intercepted something. The Dominion fleet is not waiting 30 days. They are coming in 15. Maria stopped what she was doing. Are you sure? Yes. I decoded the message 3 times to be certain. They never intended to give us the full time. They want to catch us unprepared. Maria grabbed a communicator. Captain, we have a problem. An hour later, Danny was addressing the crew. His face was serious, but his voice was calm. The Dominion lied to us, he said. They are coming early, hoping to destroy us before we can prepare. They think this will break us. They are wrong. He looked at the faces around him. Young faces and old faces, scared faces and brave faces, human faces. We have 15 days. That is not much time, but it is enough. We will train harder than we have ever trained before. We will build weapons that will make them afraid. We will show them that humanity does not break. On Earth, Admiral Moore received the news and immediately activated emergency protocols. Factories that had been running at full capacity somehow found ways to run faster. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists worked through the night without sleep. Moore recorded a message that was broadcast to every human colony in the galaxy. "They call us weak," he said. "They call us vermin. They think they can scare us into surrender. But they do not understand what they are facing. We are humanity. We have survived ice ages and plagues. We have survived wars and famines. We have survived everything the universe has thrown at us, and we are still here." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "We do not surrender. We do not break. We rise. And when the Dominion comes for us, they will learn that lesson in fire and blood." The message spread through human space like wildfire. People who had been afraid found courage. People who had been ready to give up found strength. And everywhere, in every colony and on every ship, humans began to prepare for the fight of their lives. At the edge of human territory, Dominion scout ships appeared. They were watching, counting, reporting back to their masters. They saw the human ships gathering. They saw the preparations being made, and they laughed. Commander Thraxus, the leader of the Dominion Advance Fleet, received the reports with amusement. 200 ships under his command, facing a human fleet of maybe 50. It would not even be a battle. It would be an execution. He sent a message to High Arbiter Quelix. "The humans are gathering their forces. It appears they intend to fight." Quelix's response was brief. "Destroy them. Leave nothing behind." Thraxus smiled with a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. With pleasure. He had no idea what was waiting for him. The neutral corridor was a stretch of space filled with asteroid fields and young stars. It had resources that could feed 1,000 worlds for 1,000 years. The Dominion had forbidden anyone from using it. Not because they needed it, but because they could. Power was about control. And control meant saying, no. Now it was about to become a battlefield. Captain Danny Cole stood on the bridge of the Steadfast and watched the scanner display. 53 human ships floated in formation around him, cruisers and destroyers and fighters, the entire strength of humanity's defense fleet. It was not much compared to what was coming. 200 Dominion warships appeared at the edge of the corridor. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapons that could crack planets open. Commander Thraxus sat at the center of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment, and smiled at what he saw. "They actually came to fight," he said to his officers. "How amusing. Should we offer them a chance to surrender?" one officer asked. Thraxus laughed. "Why? They are dead already. They just do not know it yet." On the Steadfast, Maria Vance was running final checks on the weapon systems. Dr. Samuel Grant was in the engineering bay, preparing his shield disruption devices. Ensign Katie Brooks sat at the communications station, her fingers moving across the controls. Danny opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Cole. You know why we are here. You know what we are facing. The Dominion thinks this will be easy. They think we will run or beg or die quietly. They are wrong." He paused and looked at his crew. Every face was focused on him. Every eye was steady. "We fight today not because we hate them. We fight because we love something more. We fight for Earth, for our families, for every human who ever looked at the stars and dreamed of a better future. If we fall here, we fall knowing that we stood. And if we win, we change everything." He took a breath. "All ships, engage." The human fleet moved forward. It was a strange formation, spread out and seemingly random. The Dominion officers frowned at their displays. This was not how battles were fought. Where were the neat lines? Where was the proper order? "They do not even know how to form a battle group," Thraxus observed. "This will be embarrassing." He gave the order to attack. The Dominion ships fired. Beams of energy crossed the darkness, bright enough to blind anyone who looked directly at them. The human ships scattered, moving in patterns that made no sense to Dominion tacticians. Several human vessels were hit and destroyed, their crews dying in fire and silence. but others slipped through the gaps in the Dominion fire. Small fighters dove toward the larger warships, moving too fast and too unpredictably to track. They fired missiles and peeled away before the Dominion guns could lock onto them. Maria led a squadron of destroyers in a sweeping attack on the Dominion left flank. Her ships hit hard and vanished into the asteroid field before the enemy could respond. It was hit and run, over and over, refusing to give the Dominion a clear target. "What are they doing?" Thraxus demanded. "This is not combat. This is chaos." "They are not following any known tactical pattern," an officer reported. "Our targeting systems cannot predict their movements." "Then use manual targeting. They are just humans. How hard can it be?" But it was hard. The humans fought like nothing the Dominion had ever seen. They did not stand in neat lines waiting to be destroyed. They did not follow the rules of civilized warfare. They attacked from every direction, hit weak points with precision, and disappeared before retaliation could come. Danny pushed the Steadfast directly toward the Eternal Judgment. It was a crazy move, the kind of thing no sane commander would do. But Danny was counting on that. He was counting on Thraxus not believing anyone would be bold enough to attack his flagship directly. "Captain, we are taking heavy fire," Maria reported from her station. "Shields at 60%. "Hold course," Danny replied. "Samuel, are you ready?" In engineering, Samuel Grant was making final adjustments to his device. "Ready on your mark." "Captain." The Steadfast shook as another blast hit them. Alarms screamed. Somewhere in the ship, metal twisted and broke. But they kept moving forward. Katie was broadcasting on all Dominion frequencies. "Commander Thraxus, this is the human vessel Steadfast. You have entered our space without permission. Leave now, or none of you go home." On the Eternal Judgment, Thraxus heard the message and felt something he had not felt in centuries. Anger. Real anger. These insects dared to threaten him? "All guns, focus fire on that ship," he ordered. "I want it destroyed." The Eternal Judgment turned its weapons on the Steadfast. Enough firepower to crack a moon was aimed at a single human vessel. But Danny had planned for this. "Now, Samuel." The shield disruption device activated. A pulse of energy spread out from the Steadfast. Invisible but powerful. It hit the Eternal Judgment and did exactly what Samuel had promised. The shields flickered and failed. For 3 seconds, the flagship was unprotected. Danny fired everything. Missiles and energy beams and kinetic rounds. All aimed at the Judgment's engines. The explosions ripped through the unshielded hull. Fire bloomed in the darkness of space. The Eternal Judgment did not explode, but it stopped moving. Its engines were gone. Its weapons systems were damaged. It was crippled. "Commander, we have lost propulsion," an officer screamed. "We cannot maneuver." Thraxus stared at his view screen in disbelief. This was impossible. No Tier 7 species had ever damaged a Dominion flagship. No one had ever come close. "Pull back," he ordered. "All ships, retreat and regroup." The Dominion fleet began to withdraw. They had come expecting an easy victory, a simple slaughter to remind the galaxy who was in charge. Instead, they were running. The humans cheered. On every ship in the fleet, voices rose in triumph. They had done it. They had fought the Dominion and won, but Danny did not cheer. He watched the enemy ships disappear into the distance, and he knew this was not over. It was barely beginning. "Damage report," he said quietly. Maria's voice came back, tired but steady. "We lost 12 ships, 347 dead, another 200 wounded. The Steadfast took heavy damage, but we can still fly." 12 ships, almost a quarter of their fleet. And that was against a force they had surprised and outmaneuvered. What would happen when the Dominion came back with everything they had? Katie interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, I am intercepting a transmission from Thraxus to the Dominion homeworld. Let me hear it." Thraxus's voice filled the bridge, shaking with fury. "The humans resisted. They damaged my flagship. They killed 47 of our ships. I request reinforcements." There was a pause. Then another voice spoke, cold and calm. It was High Arbiter Quelix. Reinforcements are already on the way, Commander. The full armada, 2,000 ships. You will have your revenge. Danny closed his eyes for a moment. 2,000 ships. Against what was left of the human fleet. Maybe 40 vessels if they were lucky. He opened his eyes and looked at his crew. They were tired. They were hurt. They were afraid. But they were still here. We knew this was coming, he said. We knew they would not stop. So we do not stop either. We find a way. We always find a way. Maria nodded slowly. What do we do now, Captain? Danny looked at the star map. At the vast, empty spaces where death was coming. Now we get creative. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. A Tier 7 species had fought the Dominion and won. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. It was true. On 100 worlds, enslaved peoples heard the story and felt something stir in their hearts. The Corvani whispered it to each other in the factories where they worked. The Thessari passed it through secret channels in their prison camps. The Vornax carved the tale into the walls of their underground cities. Humanity had stood up. Humanity had refused to die. High Arbiter Quelix sat in his throne room on Apex Prime and felt something he had not felt in 300 years. Doubt. The humans should have been crushed. They should have been an easy victory, a simple reminder of Dominion power. Instead, they had humiliated his fleet. His advisors stood around him, none of them willing to speak first. Finally, one stepped forward. His name was Prefect Tanis, and he had served Quelix for 2 centuries. High Arbiter, the Armada is assembled. 2,000 ships from 17 species. It is the largest fleet in Dominion history. Quelix nodded slowly. It should be enough to destroy one small planet. It will be more than enough, Tanis agreed. The humans cannot possibly resist. That is what Thraxis thought. Tanis hesitated. Thraxis underestimated them. We will not make the same mistake. See that we do not. Quelix's voice was quiet. But the threat in it was clear. I want every human world burned. Every colony destroyed. Every ship turned to ash. When we are finished, the galaxy will forget that humans ever existed. On Earth, Admiral Moore was meeting with the War Council. The mood was strange, a mix of triumph and terror. They had won a battle. But the war was far from over. Counselor Zara Ortiz had returned from the Galactic Assembly. She had news. The other species are watching us, she said. Some of them are impressed. A few are even talking about helping us. Will they? Moore asked. Not openly, not yet. They are too afraid of the Dominion. But if we can survive the Armada, if we can show them that the Dominion can be beaten, things might change. That is a big if, someone said. Captain Danny Cole stood near the window, looking out at the night sky. He had not slept in 3 days. But his mind was still sharp. He turned to face the council. I have a plan, he said. It is dangerous. It might not work. But it is the only chance we have. He walked to the center of the room and activated a holographic display. A map of the local star systems appeared in the air. The Korath Nebula, he said. It is 3 days from here at maximum speed. The nebula is dense with gas and radiation. Sensors do not work well inside it. Communications break down. Large ships cannot move easily. And you want to fight there? Moore asked. I want to hunt there. Danny pointed at the swirling clouds of the nebula. The Dominion has 2,000 ships. In open space, they would destroy us in minutes, but in the nebula, their numbers mean nothing. They cannot coordinate. They cannot use their superior firepower. They have to fight blind. Maria spoke up. We trained for this. Small unit tactics. Hit and fade. It is what we used against Thraxis. But on a larger scale. You want to lead 2,000 ships into a trap, Moore said slowly. I want to make them fight on our terms, Danny replied. It is the only advantage we have. The council debated for hours. Some thought the plan was genius. Others thought it was suicide. In the end, they agreed because they had no other choice. 2 days later, the human fleet gathered at the edge of the Korath Nebula. 41 ships. Everything that remained of humanity's military strength. Against them, the largest armada the galaxy had ever seen. Danny stood on the bridge of the Steadfast and watched the armada arrive. The view screen was filled with enemy ships, so many that they blocked out the stars. It was beautiful, in a terrible way. Like watching a storm roll in across the ocean. All ships, retreat into the nebula, he ordered. Make them follow us. The human fleet turned and fled. To the Dominion commanders, it looked like cowardice. Finally, the humans were showing their true nature. They were running. Pursue them, ordered Admiral Kesix, who had taken command after Thraxis's disgrace. Do not let a single one escape. The armada followed. 2,000 ships plunged into the nebula, eager for blood. Inside the clouds, everything changed. The radiation played havoc with Dominion sensors. Ships that had been in perfect formation suddenly lost contact with each other. Commanders screamed orders that their captains never received. The vast armada became 2,000 individual vessels, blind and confused. And the humans began to hunt. Maria's squadron struck first. 5 destroyers emerged from the gas clouds, fired a devastating volley at a Dominion cruiser, and vanished before anyone could react. The cruiser exploded. No one knew who had attacked or from where. Across the nebula, it was the same story. Human ships appeared without warning, killed, and disappeared. The Dominion fired blindly into the clouds, hitting nothing. They could not see their enemies. They could not find them. They could only die. Admiral Kesix was losing control. Form defensive groups, he ordered. Stay together. But staying together made them easier targets. A cluster of Dominion ships would suddenly find themselves surrounded by human vessels, picked apart in seconds. And then, the humans were gone again. Katie Brooks was working harder than she ever had. She had deployed a network of probes throughout the nebula, small devices that scrambled Dominion communications while boosting human signals. The enemy was fighting deaf and dumb. Danny piloted the Steadfast through the clouds with Maria beside him. They found a command ship, one of the vessels coordinating what was left of the Dominion fleet. And they destroyed it. Then they found another, and destroyed that too. This is working, Maria said. They are falling apart. They are not used to fighting like this, Danny replied. They have never had to. No one has ever pushed them this hard. On Apex Prime, Quelix watched the battle reports with growing horror. His armada was dying. His invincible fleet was being torn apart by creatures the galaxy had dismissed as nothing. How? He whispered. How is this possible? Prefect Tanis stood beside him, his face pale. They are not fighting like a civilized species, High Arbiter. They are using tactics we have never seen. Ambushes, traps, deception. They are fighting like animals. Then we must become animals too. Quelix gave new orders. The remaining Dominion ships were to converge on a single point to form one massive group that the humans could not attack. It was a desperate move. The kind of thing that would have been unthinkable a week ago, but the humans had changed everything. In the nebula, Danny received word of the Dominion's new strategy. He smiled, but there was no joy in it. They are grouping together, he said. That means they are scared. It also means they are harder to hit, Maria pointed out. Maybe. But it also means they are easier to find. Danny looked at his crew. One more push. We hit them with everything we have. If we can break their command structure, the rest will fall apart. He opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, converge on my position. We are going hunting one last time. 41 human ships came together in the darkness of the nebula. Ahead of them, the remnants of the Dominion armada waited. Hundreds of vessels, still deadly, still dangerous, but they were afraid now. The humans could see it in the way they moved, hesitant and uncertain. The hunters had become the hunted. Danny took a deep breath. All ships, attack, and humanity charged into the darkness. The final battle was chaos and fire. Human ships cut through the massed Dominion fleet like wolves through a herd. They were faster, more agile, more determined. Every pilot knew that this was the end. One way or another, they fought with nothing held back. Maria led her squadron against a cluster of heavy cruisers. Her destroyers weaved through enemy fire, their movements impossible to predict. One by one, the cruisers fell, their shields failing under the concentrated assault. "That is 5 more down," she reported. "How are we doing?" Danny was pushing the Steadfast toward the center of the Dominion formation. "We are doing well. But we need to find their command ship. Take out the head, and the body will fall." Katie was scanning through the chaos, her fingers flying across her console. "I have it. Bearing 7-3 Mark II. It is called the Divine Will. Admiral Kezix is aboard. Then that is where we go." The Steadfast turned and began cutting a path through the battle. Enemy ships tried to stop them, but Danny had learned their patterns. He knew how they thought, how they moved. He slipped past their fire like water flowing around stones. The Divine Will was massive, twice the size of any ship in the human fleet. Its weapons were powerful enough to crack planets, and its shields were the strongest the Dominion could build. It should have been untouchable. Samuel Grant was ready. Shield disruption standing by. "Wait for my mark," Danny said. "We only get one chance at this." The Steadfast dove toward the Divine Will. The enemy flagship opened fire, and the human ship shook under the assault. Armor plates tore away. Systems failed. A fire broke out on Deck 3 and had to be contained. But they kept moving forward. "Now, Samuel." The pulse fired. The Divine Will's shields flickered and died. For 3 precious seconds, the flagship was exposed. Danny fired everything. Missiles streaked toward the enemy ship, followed by energy beams and kinetic rounds. The explosions tore through the Divine Will's hull, ripping open compartments and destroying systems. And then something unexpected happened. The bridge of the Divine Will exploded. Admiral Kezix was dead. Without their commander, without their flagship, the Dominion fleet lost all coordination. Ships began to scatter, fleeing in every direction. Some tried to surrender. Others simply ran. The humans let them go. They were too tired to chase, too damaged to fight anymore. But they had won. Against all odds, against every expectation, they had won. On Apex Prime, High Arbiter Quelix watched the final reports come in. His armada was destroyed. His flagship was gone. His best commanders were dead or captured. He had sent 2,000 ships to crush a primitive species, and barely 300 had survived. Prefect Tanis approached him carefully. "High Arbiter, what are your orders?" Quelix was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was hollow. "Contact the humans. Offer a ceasefire." The news spread across the galaxy even faster than before. The Dominion had surrendered. The unbeatable masters of the stars had been defeated by the species they had called vermin. On the Corvani homeworld, the slaves rose up. They seized the factories and the weapons and turned them against their masters. Within days, the planet was free for the first time in 500 years. Other species followed. The Thessari broke their chains. The Vornax emerged from hiding. Everywhere, people who had lived in fear found courage. If the humans could win, so could they. 2 weeks later, a peace summit was held on Apex Prime. Counselor Zara Ortiz sat across the table from High Arbiter Quelix. The alien who had once laughed at her now looked old and tired. "You have won," Quelix said. "What do you want?" Zara smiled. "Freedom. Not just for humanity, but for every species the Dominion has enslaved. Full membership in the galactic community. Equal rights. No more Tier 7. No more second-class citizens. You ask for much. We earned it." Quelix studied her face, looking for weakness. He found none. "I have one question," he said finally. "How? You were nothing. Your fleet was tiny. Your technology was primitive. By every measure, you should have lost. How did you win? Zara leaned forward. You measured us by the wrong things. You saw our short lives and thought we were weak. But short lives teach us to value every moment. You saw our small size and thought we were fragile, but we have spent our entire existence fighting things bigger than us. You saw our young civilization and thought we were ignorant. But young means we still remember how to dream. She paused. You gave us one last warning. You thought it would break us. Instead, it united us. Every human in the galaxy stood together. Not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. That is something you never understood. That is something you cannot defeat. Quelix was silent for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. Perhaps we did underestimate you, he admitted. It will not happen again. No, Zara agreed. It will not. The treaty was signed. Humanity was recognized as a Tier 1 species, equal to the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The enslaved peoples were freed, the old order began to crumble, and something new rose in its place. Captain Danny Cole returned to Earth as a hero. Crowds gathered to cheer him wherever he went. Politicians wanted to shake his hand. Reporters wanted his story. He gave them what they wanted because they needed it, but at night, he stood alone on a balcony, overlooking the city, and thought about the people who had not come home. 3,000 humans had died in the war. 3,000 people who would never see another sunset, never hold their families again, never know that they had won. Maria found him there, staring at the stars. You did it, she said. You saved us all. We did it, Danny corrected. Every pilot, every engineer, every person who refused to give up. I just pointed them in the right direction. Maria stood beside him, looking out at the same sky. What happens now? She asked. Danny thought about it. He thought about the freed slaves building new lives on their homeworlds. He thought about the young species who were looking to humanity for guidance. He thought about all the possibilities that existed now, all the futures that had opened up. Now we do something harder than fighting, he said. Now we build. We help the others find their own strength. We show the galaxy that there is another way. A way without masters and slaves. Without tiers and rankings. That sounds like a lot of work. Danny smiled. It is. But we are humans. We are good at work. Maria laughed softly. You know, when this started, I was not sure we could win. I followed you because you seemed so certain. Were you ever afraid? Every single day, Danny admitted. But fear is not the opposite of courage. Fear is what makes courage possible. You cannot be brave if there is nothing to fear. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was changing. Old empires were falling. New alliances were forming. A future that no one had imagined was becoming real, because a small species on a small planet had refused to accept its place, because humanity had proven, once and for all, that they were never the weak. The wind picked up, carrying the sounds of celebration from the streets below. Music and laughter, and voices raised in joy. It was the sound of a species that had looked extinction in the face and said no. Danny Cole closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him. Tomorrow, there would be more work, more challenges, more problems to solve, and battles to fight. But tonight, humanity celebrated, and the universe would never be the same.